Welcome everybody to our coaches show, and we're back at Oracle Park. The last time I did this, it was in Arizona. It's changed a little bit weather-wise and wind-wise, but Antoan Richardson, Giants first base coach, nice enough to take out the time to join us. We haven't had a chance to get to know you or any of the coaches because of COVID. I do remember when you got a call up in 19 under Boch, and Augie, I think, had to take off that game. So we got to meet you then, and then in 2020, you became a permanent member of the staff. Would you take us through your path a little bit, and was this where you wanted to be?
Well, I just wanted to be in a position to help the organization. So at the time, when I took this role here, I was still the field coordinator in the minor leagues. And it was a tough decision. I remember going back and forth with Kyle Haynes, our farm director, and trying to get some assistance from him in that process. He was just saying like, hey, it's about whatever the organization thinks is best. And at that time, the move up here, we thought was going to be the best for the organization. And I'm excited I got an opportunity to do it.
Well, we're excited to have you here. And I want to go back a little bit because if you can't hear it, it's pretty slight, but he's got a really cool accent because he's from the Bahamas. And baseball, not big in the Bahamas. It's starting to become big because of people like you, because of Jazz Chisholm. But take us back to growing up in the Bahamas and how baseball became a sport that you loved when it wasn't the most popular sport to play.
I grew up playing fast pitch softball, which is still...
Oh, I can take you on.
Yeah.
Now we're talking.
Which is still very popular in the Bahamas. It's still the sport that we play in high schools down there. But it was a family friend that had a farm. We called it Freedom Farm. We used to like shovel horse manure off the land before we played. And we just kind of threw the baseball around and we got introduced to the game. I got introduced like at 11, 10 years old. And just kind of, I was just excited about playing with my friends. And so that's how I got introduced to the game of baseball.
Why isn't baseball bigger in the Bahamas?
That's a really good question. I know back in the day, cricket was a very popular sport. And in the West Indies and Caribbean countries, cricket is still very, very popular. I have no idea as to why baseball isn't more popular, but I would say over the past 5 to 10 years, it has grown a lot in the Bahamas. And I think from a youth standpoint, we have like a booming youth baseball program now. So excited to see how we continue to grow over the next couple of years.
Absolutely. I want to get to that, but I kind of want to go on your path as a player, because if you weren't introduced to the sport till 10 or 11, you came to the States at 14. So you had to leave home. I have a 14-year-old. She's not going anywhere. I'm not sending her anywhere, Antoine. She's not ready. Tell us a little bit about what that journey was like for you to come to the States at such a young age, and it was with the intent to play baseball?
Well, yeah, it was the intent to further my education, and it was hard. It's probably one of the most challenging times when I look back on my life, and I think at 14, you think about it as you going off to college, right? So like you have 18 years to go off to college, and they struggle with like going to college. So at 14, going to a new country, learning a new culture. I went to Boca Raton, Florida, which is a pretty rich area, and I wasn't coming from a wealthy, background, and so it was a big adjustment, but definitely worth it. I actually didn't really want to go. My mom and my family was like, they kind of pushed me in that direction, and I'm glad they did. At the time, I wasn't so excited about it. It was challenging because I had to learn a new culture, had to figure out how to maneuver in America. But like I said, I wouldn't change it for the world. Got so many opportunities because of it. Got an opportunity to get a college education, and eventually, get into baseball on so many different levels. And so the challenge was definitely worth it.
What were the accommodations like for you at 14? I mean, did you get on a plane and by yourself? and who was there at the airport? So the mom and me is going, well, who was there to pick you up and feed you?
So my mom took me over, okay. And we had some family members in the Boca Raton area, who I hadn't been introduced in my lifetime as yet, but my mom was really close with them, and so they took me in, and I stayed with my aunt in Delray Beach for a couple of years to go to school, and so that definitely made a big difference, right? Like I think at the time you don't necessarily recognize it, but it was good being with a familiar face, familiar last name, and so that made the transition a little bit more easier. And so I'm just excited. Like, I think that's, for me in the Bahamas community is really a really important piece. And it showed up really big for me at that time in my life.
Yeah. And you ended up going to Vanderbilt.
I did.
We have a couple of Vandy boys on this team for sure. When did playing professional baseball start to become a reality in your life? Like, I think I can do this.
As you mentioned earlier, baseball is just not a really popular sport in the Bahamas. There was a young man by the name of Angelo Burrows in the Atlanta Braves organization. When I was, I think, in 11th in 11th grade. And at that time, actually, is when I actually really started to play baseball all the time. He got drafted by the Atlanta Braves. And when he got drafted, it made me think like, oh, like this could happen for Bahamians. And at that point in time, that's when I started to think that it might have been a possibility.
Wow. And then your playing career, I mean, I don't know what sticks out to you most, but it sure seems like maybe scoring the winning run on Derek Jeter's final game might be a moment that you think back on a lot. What were some of your favorite moments as a player?
I think my debut, I think Giants fans would like this one. So I got, my first hit was off of Clayton Kershaw on the first pitch.
They're gonna love it.
That I ever saw. So that was fun. But honestly, one of them was in 2016. So I got an opportunity to play in the World Baseball Classic qualifiers with a lot of other Bahamian baseball players, professional baseball players. You know, got to take the field with like Jazz Chisholm and some of the other prospects we see coming up through the systems now. And so that was one of the moments I really cherish, and I haven't forgotten about that one.
And Jazz actually was just here. He just finished up a series against the Marlins, and a family friend. I mean, Bahamas not that big, I guess, so a small community. And tell us a little bit about that relationship. And I know you guys are really pushing for the sport to become bigger back home too.
So Jazz is like a little brother, man. And so we all know those relationships. So sometimes I don't like Big Brother because Big Brother's getting on me, and we go back and forth times. But no, I think we're just a close knit community. We're just kind of rooting for each other and really trying to like push the sport forward. But grew up watching Jazz play baseball from, you know, a really young age.
You coached him a little bit.
I did coach him a little bit. He actually left the Bahamas for a little bit to play baseball in the United States for a bit. Came back home, got an opportunity to sign, and he's actually really good friends with a former Giant that was signed at the age of 16, Lucius Fox, who made his debut yesterday as well.
Yes.
So that was pretty awesome. We just like all like brothers, right? And so I'm the big brother who is the old guy that gets on everybody's nerve. But you know, that's just the role I got to play.
Oh my God! If you're the old guy, I'm like the great grandmother of all of you guys. Okay, the transition from player to coach. How was that for you? Was it a clear-cut path, or did you struggle some?
It's a really good question. When I was done playing, I thought I was done with the sport. But I had a passion for coaching youth. And so I was in the Bahamas, got involved, started a nonprofit to kind of give back. And during that time, I got a couple phone calls from a few teams about getting back into the game. But the thing that I dreaded the most was just being away from my family. And I've done it since I was 14. I was just been away. And I'm like, oh, I need to get back home and just enjoy my mom's cooking, enjoy being around my grandmother a little bit more. It wasn't a hard transition in the sense of I love like working with people. But you know, I'm still learning, I'm still growing. We have an awesome coaching staff that I get to learn from daily. And so it's just been a really, really cool experience.
Every coach I talk to says that too. I love that about this whole staff, that nobody feels like they're an expert in anything and that everybody has room to grow. I think, and baseball is like that too. As soon as you think you've got it figured out, you're going to get humbled very quickly, right? Okay, this one's a side note, but when you go home to the Bahamas, what is the meal you ask mom to make?
You know what? It's so many meals, but one of my favorite ones is a local dish called chicken sauce, and it's basically a chicken soup, and that's her forte. So she always treats me that whenever I come home.
Do you make it?
I can make it, yes. I think I'm pretty good at it as well.
I think maybe we need to do a show with that. Antoan making chicken sauce. We have a lot of questions about what goes on at first base. I don't think any of them are going to come as a surprise to you, but this past series against the Marlins, you had a couple of really cool moments with Elliot Ramos making his debut and getting his first career hit, and you're the first person he gets to see and talk to.
It's pretty cool, but I think what I try to do in those moments is just encourage the player to take it in, right? Because you don't get to experience it again. And so I know sometimes as a young player, you get excited and you like, oh, I gotta move on to the next play. And so I just like to help remind them, like, hey, like, take a look, see what's happening, embrace this, and try to hold on to this moment.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to happen again.
Coolest celebration, handshake, fist pump. You got anything going on with anyone? I mean, so it's usually the third base coach or something in the dugout, but when they end up at first base, we've seen some pretty cool fist pumps, handshakes. You got any that you love?
We got a couple of gestures that go on. So with Belt, we do like the hook 'em horns for Texas. Obviously, me and Yaz, we do a little Vanderbilt anchor down thing, which is pretty cool. And then Lamont and I got a little Black Panther thing we got going on. And so, yeah, it's just kind of fun. to get the guys going a little bit. And so those are the three that stand out to me.
Yeah. And then what are the things that you do discuss at first base that you're allowed to share with us? when you got a runner on first and, let's just say the situation's a runner on first, one out. What are you telling them?
Don't talk to the first baseman. No, I think exactly what you said, right? Just kind of remind them of the game situation. I think my job is just to be a reminder, like to them, like they know what they got to do. And it's just to nudge them a little bit to remember, like, hey, if this happens, we're going to look to do this. Remember to pick up Mark at third base.
Yes, please pick up Mark.
And let's just find a way to help our team by getting to the next base.
Some fan questions came in for you, and so I wanted to get to those. They want to know what you're doing with the stopwatch. What are you timing exactly?
So usually I'm timing the pitcher's time to home plate, right? So I'm trying to understand, like, if there's an opportunity to steal second base, what's his time look like to home plate, and seeing if we have a good chance to advance a base right there.
Okay, that makes sense. Favorite first baseman on an opposing team to talk to?
Ooh,
I liked that one.
That is a tough one because I feel like if I say
You're gonna leave someone out.
If I say the wrong name, then I'm gonna get in trouble. So if I say Freddie Freeman when he was at Atlanta, maybe they'll be okay with it. But I don't know if he's gonna be my favorite one going forward.
You probably can't talk to Freddie anymore.
Hossman's pretty good. I think you know what. They are pretty good, but those are the two that stand out. Those two are really talkative.
If you couldn't be number 00, what number would you be?
Ooh, I don't know if I would be another number because when I chose 00, it was in honor of my great grandmother. Right, she was born in 1900.
Oh my gosh!
And she's a pioneer in the Bahamas. An activist. It was so much, and I wanted to find a way to honor the Bahamas, but also honor my family. And so I don't know if I would choose it.
We're not changing it.
Yeah, I wouldn't have chosen
We're not changing it. Favorite restaurant in San Francisco? Have you found any? Do I call it Bahamian food?
Yes,
is
Bahamian
that correct?
Food.
Okay.
I haven't found any Bahamian food.
Maybe that's your next venture.
That might
is
be
to
my
open
next.
a restaurant and make chicken sauce.
Maybe.
Yeah, I got you all taken care of.
So Original Joe's is one that I check out. Dusty Baker put me on this place called Hard Knocks Cafe, which is pretty good. It's close to the ballpark. And then Ozuma is like a sushi place down the road. I check out every once in a while. So those are three that I go to quite often
regularly.
Yeah,
All right. I can't believe we don't have any Bahamian food for you here.
Maybe we'll have
We're
to find a
gonna
remedy
get the
for
message out right now. Somebody open a restaurant for Antoine. Last question for you before we let you go. You've got a game to coach tonight. Your favorite part about being a part of the Giants organization?
I just think everybody's desire to work together for a common goal, right? I think we see it on a daily basis, and it really feels like a family. I think like from the clubhouse to baseball ops, I think the entire organization, you get emails where, people are celebrating everybody in this organization. And so I really appreciate the family aspect of it. And I talked earlier about the Bahamas being a community, and that's the part that I really enjoy about the Giants.
Yeah, reminds you of home a little bit.
It definitely does.
I think the next shoot we do is in the Bahamas, don't you think?
I'll sign off on it. We just got to get some other people too.
Twist my arm. Antoan Richardson, thank you so much for your time. Isn't he great?
Thanks for having me.